course, I'm always pleased when ASEAN Affairs come back on so we can talk about what's happening specifically in our region. I just got a note from them a day or so ago saying the heading and the subject is going to be ASEAN's Energy Network on a Slow Boat. I thought, gee, that doesn't augur well for an industry and an area that's growing to the extent it is. So, looking forward to seeing Daniel Swartz. He's with us back today. He's Vice President Global Marketing, of course, of AseanAffairs. Hi, how's life?
Life's good, Valerie.
Yeah?
Thanks for having me back on the show
You're
again
welcome,
this month.
you're welcome.
It's always my pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. And how's business going generally?
Business going generally well.
And you're into Europe in a big way now, AseanAffairs, the
Yes.
States?
Yes, States, Americas, Asia, and Europe.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Stay tuned, and we'll likely have the launch of a European edition when Roy's back from Germany.
Look forward to that.
Me too.
Now, tell us why you've chosen the energy area to discuss this month.
Well, this month we're discussing energy because it's very vital and very important. And the second reason, the cover story for the magazine is featuring Dr. Michael Nobel and talking about entering the green era. So we're looking at energy and green energy and where's ASEAN and what's happening with ASEAN. As you mentioned, the title, ASEAN Energy on a Slow Boat. As you know, ASEAN's 10 countries. It's never easy for 10 different countries to all get together, do anything quickly and as fast as we may all like. That's just the reality.
I mean, everybody's got their own views, their own ways of where they want to go, and of course, it also relates a lot to the amount of money they can spend.
Of course, it always comes down to money. As you know, there's a lot of push, and has been a lot of push, for alternative energy and reducing dependence on foreign oil. Well, try as we might like, based on the rapid growth in the economies, even though they've been slowed a bit, you can't replace all the demand by having alternative energy only. So the demand for imported oil to ASEAN is going to continue and will only increase.
I was going to say, it's not going to even remain stable, is it? It's going to increase based on the fact that, you know, we're economies that are growing, manufacturing is growing and so on. Is there any estimation about how much we're going to grow?
Well, there's a lot of growth just in the general economies. I mean, if you just look in Asia, not just only ASEAN, you know, China's kind of a big place. It doesn't take very much of an increase in the wealth level of the average Chinese to start creating a middle class, for instance. Then there's more cars. More cars means more fuel for transportation, or they'll do buses or trains. And similarly in other countries, as people get more money, as the economy starts to rebound, it's going to increase the demand for oil. And to bring on alternative energy, they can only replace a small portion of the energy needs, and it takes time.
If we actually look at the fact that I think ASEAN got together and said by year 2010 they wanted to actually reduce the dependence on renewable energy or alternate energy by something like 10%. I mean, we're nowhere near that, are we?
Correct. It's moved slowly, have not been able to meet that goal. It was a goal that was desired but not met yet. So as economies grow, I guess one blessing in a sense from the economic slowdown was the fact that less money means less demand for oil, less travel, people cut back. However, on the other hand, with lower oil prices, then it becomes less economical to spend money on alternative energy because the cost per barrel of alternatives is higher than the cost of buying the actual oil. So it's kind of puts you in a catch-22 situation, because you should be spending more money developing alternatives, but it's cheaper to just import and buy oil.
That's going to have an impact, surely, though, on global warming and on our environment and a hell of a lot more, isn't it?
Sure. According to Greenpeace, they're talking about shifting to renewable energy could save Southeast Asian countries as much as $2 trillion over the next 23 years, or more than $80 billion a year. They're also stressing it makes sense to make that shift because it'll help reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 22% in the same period. So there is something to be said, you know, in terms of cutting the greenhouse gas emissions and using alternative energy.
If we look at the more developed of the ASEAN nations, we talk about Singapore, Vietnam and Thailand and so on. I mean, how are we responding to these changes?
No, they're really doing something. There are many projects out there to help implement alternative energy, biofuels using palm oil or jatropha or other means of creating it, also ethanol and other alternative energy, but it can't create everything. There's also seems to be a split block.
So overall, if we have the position as we have it now, where we're not achieving the objective, we're on a slow boat, what can be done? What can turn it around? Just the willingness of governments?
I think that's a big part of it. It's the willingness of government, but it's also willingness of the people. Because, like, for instance, putting in nuclear energy, a lot of people don't like it.
Sure.
You can have nuclear energy, but not in my backyard.
Yes.
Don't put it anywhere near my house, but I want to have more energy. I want to buy more
efficient.
TVs.
So the question is going to be, is it safe?
Correct.
And what else is going to happen to that uranium that comes in? Who's going to use it and for what?
That seems to be a big question. How do you manage this infrastructure? How do you deal with the security concerns and the public concerns? And it's going to have to be dealt with, because at the end of the day, we don't have an unlimited supply of oil.
It's not going to be ongoing, is it?
You can't continue to spend more than you have, and they're going to have to do something, and those issues are going to have to be worked out.
Any final words?
Any final words?
Yeah.
If you want to read
I thought so.
If you want to read a lot more about renewable energy, going green, there's a number of articles, including our interview with Dr. Michael Nobel. And there's also something from Singapore on green ICT. And read it in the magazine. It's available on newsstands, and it's quite an interesting article for anybody that's interested.
Terrific. Okay, we always like to have our partnership with AseanAffairs, and renewable energy, alternative energy, climate change, so many things are interdependent. So, great subject. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for having
me.
Always my pleasure.
Thank you.